Hello, this is Doug Stenslick with Cripple Creek Backcountry and Wild Snow, and today we're going to go through your pre-season ski checklist to make sure all your gear is working well before the first snow flies. Now, the reason why we do this is because everyone's had an incident where they're just skiing along and their ski breaks or their binding breaks, but it turns out catastrophic failures rarely happen immediately or all at once. So there's a list you can go through where you can catch like little deficiencies in your gear now before we start skiing to prevent those really bad days in the backcountry. I like to start with the binding. The ski binding is like one of the most important things because of how it interfaces with the boot and keeps you on the ski. When we look at these, they're very small, very lightweight pieces of machinery that are almost magical the way they work and hold up so well. First thing I like to do is take a posit driver and check all the screws. Now, if you haven't mounted a pair of bindings before, you're not trying to like really lay into the screw. You just want to make sure they're all tight. If one of the screws is loose, you got an issue, and it hasn't been catastrophic yet, but you're going to want to take all the screws off that like toe piece or heel piece. Make sure that no water got into the core, and if it looks pretty good, you can just add some wood glue, fire the screws back in, and you should be good to go. If you start seeing a little bit of core rot in there, that's a good time to bring it to your local shop. After I check that, I will always check to make sure the binding's like totally flush with the ski. You want to make sure there's no gaps in that toe or heel. Sometimes that's another way to see it loosen up over the time. And then I'll cycle a boot into a binding to see how it works. There's a few reasons to do this. Like one, you're gonna kind of see if there's any other play that you're not noticing. You can make sure all the heel risers are working. And most importantly, this happens to me a lot, I'll let people either borrow my skis or I'll use it with a different boot. And then I get to the trailhead and realize, oh, this is set for my lightweight boot. And now I have no way to adjust it at the trailhead. So that's just a little bit about your binding, a quick hit there. The ski is another really important thing to take a look at. Again, we're trying to keep water from getting out of the ski. If you see little chinks out of the top sheet or core shots in the base, that's a good place for water to get in. So anytime I see that, I'm either going to add some epoxy or at least check to make sure that there's no moisture getting in there. The most common place we see, especially in lighter weight touring skis, is delamination from the top sheet pulling off or in between the edge and the sidewall or the edge and the base. So I really give that a really good look over to make sure, especially in older setups, that there's not something we have to do repair. We have a whole series on repairing gear from home, so check that out if you need some advice on what to do. So the one last thing I would look at is just the bases of the skis to see if one, you've left storage wax on, or the shop you took them to left storage wax on, or two, sometimes they'll get like a white chalky feeling on the base, and that means you definitely want to wax them before your first day out. The next thing is the ski boot. Ski boots, we've seen everything from buckles falling off to pivots coming off. Tech fits are really important to check out because these are all like wear points on it. And again, if your cuff pivot falls out, it wasn't because it just suddenly loosened up on that one tour. It happens over tens of thousands of small flexes into the boot over years. But all you'll really need for that is an Allen key. Every machine screw, so anytime there's metal into metal and not like the ski where it's metal into wood, like these have an even bigger chance of loosening up. So I'll throw an Allen key in all of my buckles and make sure that that's super solid. And the cuff pivot is another really important one to check. Again, if you find one that's really loose, it's worth backing it all the way out and adding some blue Loctite onto it so it stays in place. After you've checked all of that over, like the most important part of the boot and the rest of the setup is kind of what I consider a consumable. You know, a new ski boot is going to cost you around $700 to $800 for a touring boot, but a new liner is going to cost you around $180 to $200. So I really like to look at wear in the liner. If you start really feeling the inside of the liner separating from the rest of the liner or see a hole in there, that's going to cause you awful blisters. And again, it didn't happen suddenly. It happened from it breaking down over time. This is something that really should get replaced every 80 to 100 days of touring. So if you're really getting after it and you're skiing 100 days a season on the same pair of boots, you're probably due for a new liner every year. That and the skins, I really recommend don't fight and replace. I'm never short on bike analogies, but every time you replace a bike tire, you're excited. It grips better, it holds up against flats better, and every time I've ever done it, I'm like, why didn't I do this like 3 months ago? Same with replacing your liners or your skins. What you're really looking for on the skins is making sure the tip and the tail attachments are fully like sewn or riveted on. A lot of times you'll start to see the stitching come out. That's a good indication that you have to address that. And of course, like the plush side, which is the furry side we call down, making sure there's no big gashes or gouges in the plush side. But what's always going to fail on a skin first, almost always, is the glue. And when you start peeling the glue apart slowly and you start seeing it kind of stick to itself like that, that's a good indication the glue is on its way out. This skin is in like medium condition. I would feel pretty good about like skinning on it the first few days of the season, especially while those rocks and sharks are out there. But when I start putting my hand to the base of the skin and I'm feeling stickiness actually come off in clumps, that means these skins are ready to go. Always better to do this now in September or October than it is in January in your next hut trip. So that would be a quick hit on the major things you can take a look at home. You know, your bindings, skis, boots, and skins. And that's going to set you up for the best early season tour. Again, think back, make sure nobody borrowed your equipment, that you didn't try a new boot or binding. And yeah, have a good, fun, safe ski touring season.